Yo, 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 yo. You know, sometimes you gotta cut off your brain from Shadow for a league and play something a little bit different, a little more brain dead like Zoo. Because I mean, really with Zoo, all you gotta think about is what lands am I getting first or second, which in itself can screw up your entire game plan. Then you got to think about the order that you want to play some of your threats and how to hold up your interaction and sideboard. I guess it's really not that brain dead after all. No, really, Zoo is, in my opinion, one of those underplayed archetypes that every time I do throw a league up with it, it impresses. I mean, I don't have a better way of saying it. It's consistent. It's proactive. It's straightforward. Like, let me hit my opponent for 5 as many times as I can. Whether that's the Shoba Brawler, Territorial Kavu, Tribal Flames, Ragavan and Bolt, Scion and Bowmaster. We're just going to 5-ball them till we can't 5-ball them no more. And with the inclusion of things like Leyline Binding, Stubborn Denial, Lightning Bolt, you get some of the best, most versatile interaction that the format has to offer, and you're not bogged down by things like color restrictions and color pie considerations. So if you're looking for a deck that feels like old school Shadow a lot of the times, get a big threat down early, protect it, tempo your opponent out, then I think Zoo's an archetype that could be like right up your alley. Currently seeing plenty of lists with 4 copies of Orcish Bowmaster, great against not only the One Ring, but opposing Bowmasters that might want to clog up the ground and block your Ragavans or your Kavus, Wild Nicodles, whatever. Unless you have a Scion, a Draco, can give your red creatures first strike, your green creatures trample, make your Bowmaster ping 1 and gain 1. Pretty hefty lifting there. The sideboard, couple copies of Rest in Peace for this growing Yawgmoth Murktide meta that we find ourselves in. Couple Chain of the Rocks, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Terra Thunder, 2 Hidetsugu Consumes All, 2 Unlicensed Hearse, 1 Curse Totem, and I saw a list playing this Clothis God of Destiny. I was like, I don't think I've actually ever sleeved that card up, so we're going to throw it in here. So decided to run 1 Clothis. For the record, I was so excited about this Clothis that I ended up just like bringing it in 2 or 3 matchups that I do not believe I should be bringing it in for, but I just wanted to see what it would do. So that's my spoiler warning. If you see me in a post-board game with a Clothis in my hand, I probably just wanted to see what it was about and felt like it was a matchup that could maybe do something. Either way, let's jump in and show off some of the games so that you can see what it looks like to actually play through some Zoo leagues. Now, I will admit there are much better Zoo content creators than me out there. If you're not following like Dak Faden or Black Belt, go follow them on YouTube. They play way more Zoo than I do. Much better decision making. I would say I'm still in my first like dozen leagues with Zoo. Maybe that's close to being untrue, but really not that many. A lot of the decisions I make are coming from a Death Shadow pilot, so I have to rework a lot of my mental framework when it comes to sleeving up a Zoo league. So be patient with me. I think I'm pretty good at recognizing some of my mistakes after the fact. For example, very first hand I see of the league, my thought process is, oh, Ragavan, Flooded Strand gets Steam Vents or Sacred Foundry. Sneap it off. Like, turn 1 Ragavan on the play, in the blind, can't ask for better. Wrong. First off, almost never keep a 1-lander. And I mean it like your deck needs the basic land types to function. That's such a hefty requirement. You need all like 2 mana for a 3/3 Neshoba Brawler or 3/3 Kavu, bad. Three land types, doesn't even let you cast a Leyline Binding for 2 mana. 3 damage off of Tribal Flames, bad. Deck does not want 1 land, even if it's a Triome. So, of course, my lizard brain side is just like, Ragavan, keep. Logical. So, of course, we do that. We keep 1 lander with a Ragavan. And spoiler alert, we get extraordinarily punished when our opponent leads on a Yawgmoth. Like the worst possible 1-drop my opponent could play out in that scenario. Anything else, I could even bolt and get my Ragavan through. Yawgmoth, nope. Pick up a tap land. We out. Game 2. Very quick game 1. Sideboarding against Yawgmoth. My stubs are coming out. My Ragavans are coming out. I brought in like the rest in pieces. I think I might have brought in Hidetsugu. Maybe not. I know I brought in Terra Sunder, rest in peace. Unlicensed Hearse. And I think I brought in Clothis. Just because, like, I haven't played with Clothis before. I want to know what's up. But keep a pretty good hand with the turn 1 Ragavan. Punt here. Not the attack part. The attack part's fine. My opponent blocks with the plant token, the Yawgmoth, whatever. I get bodies off the board, especially with the rest in peace. They ain't coming back. That's great. I was planning on Bowmastering on my turn, and then I was like, well, I'll just hold up Bowmaster through their turn. And then immediately on their upkeep thought, well, crap, if they have a Chord of Calling and they get to like chord my Bowmaster in response to me pinging something, it still goes to exile, but they could chord for like a Haywire Might or something. And that could really screw me up. So I ended up going for the Bowmaster on the upkeep in case they don't have the chord. Turns out they had the Might in hand, so when they go to blow up the rest in peace, we bolt the other wolf, get those out of the way. Opponent plays a Dryad Arbor and passes. So if they had chord instead of Might in hand, I could have gotten heavily punished there. Very, very fortunate. Decided to kill off the Dryad Arbor instead of going face with the Tribal Flames because I've got like so much go wide pressure. I don't really care about a Grist. I just want to keep them from having mana and being able to accumulate like double Bowmaster or something the next turn that keeps them alive and lets them stabilize. So game 3, slow hand to play out to the board, but I was like, I've got to turn 1 bolt. So if they play a Mana Dork on 1, I'm good. If I get to turn 2 and the board state's not too crazy, I get to start dropping down threats. I think I play out the Kavu here because I want to keep the Brawler around for trample in case they have Bowmaster into Grist here. Thankfully, they do not. But if they did, then they would have killed off the Kavu, and I would have gone to my turn, played like Brawler plus Bolt or something. But again, trying to keep my Trampler alive in case I need to attack into a Grist and take it out. Plus, if they don't have the Grist, then like Kavu is my best threat to actually have out on the board between the attack trigger, the just being a 5/5. Pretty difficult for them to get to deal with. Pretty good at pressuring my opponent. Exiling creatures out of the yard so that Cauldron kind of gets a bit of a neuter. Don't want to draw cards in case they have a Bowmaster to flash in, but they Takenuma back a Yawgmoth. That's fine with me. Opponent decides too much pressure to overcome and they scoop. If they did end up playing like Yawgmoth plus Grist to sack it off, then I could just Leyline Binding the Yawgmoth and be okay, which is why I held that up instead of playing like another 2-drop out to the board. On to match 2. Again, turn 1 Ragavan, but this time I've got the follow-up lands, so I can like Ragavan into Brawler, Ragavan into Nicodle. Ragavan exiles Growth Spiral. As soon as I see that, then my immediate thought is they're on some sort of like Temur Valakut deck. I can't think of anything else like Temur Bring to Light, 4-color Bring to Light, anything else that plays Growth Spiral. So now that I know they're on an unfair deck, I could play the Growth Spiral and try to follow up with like a Neshoba Brawler, but I think going for the Nicotl plus Brawler gives me a much more proactive game plan, and if they are on something unfair, I'd rather have my threats on the board. So they do end up stern scolding the Wild Nicotl. In case you're unsure, Wild Nicotl is a 1/1 everywhere except on the battlefield, and then its power and toughness get modified if you've got the prerequisite land types. Hit a Dryad off their library, lets me hold up Bowmaster. Too much pressure for opponent to overcome. On to game 2. Sideboarding. I think I sideboarded like fairly minimally in this matchup. Yeah, I boarded out a couple Leyline Bindings because I didn't think I'd have any good targets, and boarded in the 2 Flusterstorms, and that was pretty much it. Try to fight over Bring to Light, Scapeshift. So I kept this 7 with a Nicotl and double Bowmaster. I probably should have thought about this more and thrown it back. I think one of the big keys to the matchup is going to be getting down like a turn 2 play that puts a lot more pressure on the board. My immediate thought was like, okay, I get Wild Nicotl down on 1. Turn 2, I hold up Bowmaster, and I get to like flash it in if they go for a Growth Spiral or something, get a little bit bigger of an army token. But realistically, like, this is a hand that's set up to fail pretty badly. If I go turn 1 Nicotl and my opponent untaps on 2 and plays like a Renin 6, then I am so far behind because I didn't just have like a good 2-drop to play. They play their Triome on 1, pass back. Thankfully, they don't have the Renin 6, but they do just have like a Fire here. Better than a Renin 6, still not great for my Nicotl. We do find the ability to get the red source to dash Ragavan. Not the most exciting play. Again, maybe it would have been more worth it to hold up Bowmaster. Kind of glad that I didn't when I exile a Spell Snare, so that Bowmaster wouldn't have been long for this world anyway. Opponent playing out a Lorien Revealed for a Steam Vent, so I'm kind of assuming they don't have another land in hand. So get in some points with Ragavan, flash in Bowmaster, just try to provide some sort of pressure. Tide Binder my Bowmaster trigger. Top deck a Bolt so we can dash Ragavan, keep getting our damage on. Little back and forth. Kind of minor mini tempo swings. Again, flashing in Bowmaster, just trying to provide some sort of pressure. Stub would look a lot better if we had a stub-enabled threat. Fire and Ice takes out a chunk here. So we do have this Tribal Flames to try to sneak across the last few points of damage. Okay. Let's pause. I'm sure everybody watching the video at this moment sees lethal. Sees the attack with both my guys. They block 1. They go to 8. Tribal Flames you for 5. Lightning Bolt you for 3. I can pay for Spell Pierce. If they have like double Spell Pierce, I can pay for 1, stub the other. If they have like a Remand or something, I've got stub. Million ways to get the opponent from 0 to dead. Yet again, myself in my lizard brain status, sees, oh, I've got tribal flames. They got a 4 toughness blocker. Let me just get that out of the way. Let me just deal with that. Bad. I know. One of my rules for Death Shadow is like, take a look and see if you have a shot at lethal. Like, stop for a second, look around, see if you can kill your opponent. And for whatever reason, I kept seeing, oh, I've got 8 burn, they're at 9. Going face doesn't matter because they just blocked my dudes with the Dryad. I didn't think about the 1 extra point from the second token getting through. So, 100% on me. Renin 6. Stubbed the Renin 6 because, like, I was thinking there might be some follow-up. Honestly, the Renin 6 didn't matter, and I should have just let it resolve. So this is me just, like, punting the entire second half of this game. Like, should have let the Renin 6 resolve, kept the stub, because the Ren just doesn't matter. I guess I was kind of afraid they would have, like, a 3-mana play. I didn't think Flame of Anor, but I was thinking, like, a 3-mana play plus, like, a Spell Pierce. Either way, we are on to game 3 against them. And yet again, Small Brain Shadow Self says, oh, Red Source Ragavan, keep it. They're pretty uninteractive. If Ragavan hits, I can get down like a Kavu or something. Then start looting into lands. Oh, they got a Spell Snare. Dang. Hope they don't have a Renin 6. Wait, we get in another attack with Ragavan. Well, this is looking promising. We're on to something. Naked Snapcaster. Ah, I see. Well, it's okay because we get another attack in with Renin 6. We can play out like a 3/3 Wild Nicodle. But I decided to hold up Flusterstorm like a dingus. I think my hope was to top deck a land so I could like play out Neshoba Brawler and hold up Flusterstorm, and just didn't. So that was absolutely me getting punished like I did the first hand of round 1. Just keeping a 1-lander when I didn't need to. The matchup should be pretty good on our side. Proactive threat, decent damage. I just kept bad hands. 100% on me. So this is round 3, I believe. For whatever reason, Moto did not want to function very well with recording this match. So you'll see me like fast forwarding through some turns here. I'll stop and obviously go through a little more in depth if anything interesting happens. But if it looks a little skippier and faster than normal, that is why. But really, we're just like wild Nicoddling and Kavuing. I think getting down to 4/4 Kavu is really important here, but I think holding up Stub instead of getting like Sacred Foundry to pump up the Wild Nicoddle is better. So Cling to Dust off of Field of Ruin means we're almost assuredly up against like some sort of mono black deck. Counter a 1 ring, opponent scoops it up. Really good tempo showing for us. Field of Ruin, Demolition Field dot deck can be pretty rough for the deck that wants to have all of its like non-basics not interacted with. Sideboarding, brought in like some Flusterstorms. I might have brought in Clothis in this match because I was like, okay, they can't interact with it like at all. So maybe just being there ticking helps out, prevents them from getting out of control with the 1 ring or something. But really my game plan is just what you're seeing here. Like, try to find a threat I can get down early. In this case, Scion of Draco dodges like Fatal Push and doesn't get chumped by Bowmaster. So I think getting it down is a little bit better than getting down the Kavu. I just need to find, there we go, 1 more land so I can get down second Scion, just start holding up stub and hope to get there. Like, honestly, this is about as good of a curve out as I could put together against mono black. Like, them not field of ruining me off of my my lands, me getting double Scion down instead of something that dies to fatal push, holding up double stub, hitting the second blue source. Like, I could not draw that up any better if I tried. So, on to match 4, on the play, double Kavu, double Bolt. Okay. So I see basic island, and my first automatic thought is Merfolk. That's the only thing I think of when I see basic island to start off a game on the other side. If that's the case, thankfully they don't have an Aether Vial. If it's the case, also, I pray they don't have a Trickster. But what I do want to do now that I know, or at least I think it's Merfolk, I want to think about what I'm fetching a little bit more. Usually, if my opponent's not interacting with my lands, I'll just go like Savai Triome Breeding Pool. I think with a heavy red hand with some black like this, it makes more sense anyway to possibly go Zagoth, Triome, Sacred Foundry, but especially if there's a chance my opponent's interacting with my lands and can just strip off my red source. I don't want my red source and my black to be on the same land. So I don't want to get Savai Triome, have my opponent like Tide Shaper my Triome, and then my entire hand is shut off. If I get Zagoth, Triome, and Sacred Foundry, and they take out my Sacred Foundry, then at least I can still cast Bowmaster. So, just minor little consideration there for the land drops. Obviously, Steam Vents helps to prevent a lot of that. So if they do like Tide Shaper my Sacred Foundry, I can still Steam Vents Bolt, play a 2-drop. If they Tide Shaper my Zagoth Triome, then I can Bolt, play a 2-drop. You get the idea. So opponent's got a Trickster for the Kavu. I'm just praying they don't have a second Trickster. 0 for 2. I could have played out the Scion, but I was kind of thinking, like, what are the odds they have a second Trickster in their opener right now? Plus a Dismember for the Scion of Draco. So opponent's just going, like, absolutely haywire on this one. I posted in the Zoo Discord. Like, I've been seeing a ton of Merfolk on Shadow, so I was looking for, like, what do I need to be thinking about in the matchup? What are some sideboard considerations for it? And a lot of the feedback I got was, good luck. And you can certainly see why. Bowmaster coming in response to the Spy trigger, ping the Mutavault for 1, so if they, like, answer my Bowmaster, I can still block with a token. They end up Otawaring it, so I know I get to take out the Mutavault and take out the Spy at the cost of them drawing a card, but I get my Bowmaster back to hand. So I'm pretty happy with that trade-off, especially now that they're tapped out. Tapping off Bowmaster could be wrong in the event that they have a Silvergill Adept, but you never know. That's the case. I'm just going to be in trouble. Open for no Lord. Hidebinder my Bowmaster trigger. Oof. But you can see how, like, Territorial Kavu, which is usually one of the best threats, and I think, like, I would put Kavu personally as, like, the reason to go Zoo. And Merfolk just embarrasses it. So not only do they have Merfolk Trickster that just straight up kills it, usually Dismember in the main kills it. They have Tide Shaper, which can shut off your land types and shrink it. Back to that block real quick. And then Tidebinder now. So when Territorial Kavu attacks, the trigger goes on the stack. You cannot stop the trigger from going onto the stack. So if they Tidebinder and counter the trigger, Kavu just dies because it attacked. The workaround there is if Tidebinder attacks, and please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe if Tidebinder attacks, if Territorial Kavu attacks, makes the trigger, and they Tidebinder in response to stifle the trigger and strip the Kavu of its abilities. If you kill the Tidebinder before its ETB resolves to stifle the ability, then the ability will still get stifled, but the Kavu won't lose all of its abilities after that. It won't become a 0/0 because the Tidebinder says that it only loses those abilities as long as it's on the battlefield. So I don't believe there's any sort of window where like the ability resolves, it loses all its abilities, and then checks to make sure the Tidebinder's there. So here, opponent's got Island Walking Merfolk. Like, I'm dead on my turn if I don't do anything. So I figured I would attack in, maybe try to find like a removal spell of some sort. I was really surprised that they blocked the Ragavan, because I feel like one of the only ways that you lose this game on the Merfolk side is if I go like, okay, Leyline Binding the other Lord or Bolt the other Lord or something, and you lose both Lords and you just have a Tidebinder, nothing in hand. So I thought it was a pretty free attack. Turns out that was not the case. Sideboarding. Took out all of my Stubborn Denials. I ended up boarding in one Chain to the Rocks because I just needed something else to board in. Chained, I don't believe is going to be very good, because if you do Chain to the Rocks a threat, you have to enchant a mountain you control. If they Tide Shaper that mountain, then Chain to the Rocks just falls off and they get their threat back. So for a deck, and especially in a game plan like this where they're really planning on Tide Shapering you anyway, probably not the best combination. Like I said at the very beginning of the video, I brought in Klothys in some really weird spots just because I wanted to try it out. I wanted to see how the card did, and this was one of them. I just kind of figured like, oh, I'm killing off their Merfolk, they're trickstering my dudes. Maybe if I just land a turn 3 Klothys and it's like siphoning 2 life every single turn, maybe that does a lot. I don't know. We'll give it a shot. Like I said, I've never sleeved up the card. I don't know what matchups it's particularly good in. It looks like it's really good against Blood Moon decks and things like Scam that might get you down to just a basic forest, so you can play Klothys and then start stripping away some life from there. But either way, opponent with a Vial on 1, I don't think is very scary, so that's kind of why I prioritized playing out the Scion on turn 2 instead of going for the Leyline Binding. And then we go for the Leyline Binding on the Vial on their upkeep to play around Force of Negation, and before they're able to tick the Vial up to 2. So, second Vial, ooh. Always fun. Either way, we'll Flash and Bowmaster. They didn't do anything exciting on their turn 2 with 2 mana available. So I'm kind of assuming they might have a Trickster, but we don't care about a Trickster. We've got a Scion. They're just going to take 5, conveniently putting them to double Tribal Flames range. I don't really know why they Trickstered the Scion after attacks. Like, if you're not blocking the Scion, then just Trickster it before combat. But I guess they weren't playing around double Tribal Flames. Either way, on to game 3. Pretty decent hand. We've got some 1-drop power with Ragavan. We've got Kavu to follow it up. Obviously, again, Trickster, pain card to deal with. So I'm really glad that they Trickster this Ragavan in trade-off. But you can't just board out one of your best cards just because your opponent runs Trickster. Like, I do think it's pretty important to say, all right, I got to make them have it. Unfortunately, they've got Tidebinder, so made them have it. They had it. You know, we do have Scion, so we don't have to play into like a second Trickster or second Tidebinder. Dash Rag, because it gets first strike off of the Scion of Draco. So if they want to block, we're not trading off. Play out Kavu for the defensive wall. Again, if they have a Trickster, I'm probably dead. If they had like, I don't think I was dead last turn. No, I wasn't dead last turn to land, or I was dead to land second Lord. Because if they had gone land, second Lord, fire up Mutavault, then I take 5 off the Tidebinder, 3 off the Mutavault, or 4 off the Mutavault, 3 off the other Master, and that puts me exactly dead. So I kind of just have to say, you're going to have to show it to me. This was me not understanding the Tidebinder interaction at this moment. I didn't find out about it or think about it until after the fact. So I end up letting the Kavu die, even though I've got the bolt, because I just don't think like, oh, cast the bolt, like kill the Tidebinder, keep the Kavu around. I think it worked out okay for me because we end up killing the Lord, stripping off the Tidebinder, getting some damage in, playing another Scion. So now, again, I'm dead to a Lord if they can just, like, Vial one in and Tidebinder. I'm not dead to a Sviolin. In fact, they cannot attack with this Sviolin or they're dead to Orcish Bowmaster. And I've just got a, like, plethora of chump blockers if they don't have a Lord. So to kill me, they have to have a Lord, not attack with the Spy, and a Tidebinder. Or they don't have to have the Tidebinder if they attack with the Spy. Or they do have to have the Tidebinder if they attack with the Spy. If they don't attack with the Spy, they don't have to have a Tidebinder, but they still have to have a Lord. So when they fire up the second Mutavault, it's like, okay, they don't have a Lord because they're at 3 mana. They could vial in like a Mirror Regery, but that doesn't give Island Walk, so I don't really care about that one. But I'm going to respond to the Sviolin trigger with Bowmaster. Ping to the face. They draw, put the second Bowmaster trigger on the stack. So this has to be a Tidebinder to stay alive. In which case, I just have 3 chump blockers to block like Sphy, Tidebinder, Mutavault, or Sphy, double block the Tidebinder, whatever. Doesn't matter. Killing them with Scion on the crackback. And they vial in Akira. So they are dead to Bowmaster. On to match 5. I do think it's kind of funny because, like, I hear a lot of people talking about wanting to ban Bowmaster in Modern. And obviously, me normally playing like Shadow, I don't really see it as a card that is over the top impressive against me. So it's always hard to imagine it being over the top impressive against other people. I just think of it as like this card polices the One Ring. That's it. Now that Beanstalk's gone, we don't really care about that interaction. But you're not playing Bowmaster. You're playing Bowmaster for 2 reasons. To Bowmaster your opponent's Bowmaster and to play against like the unfair card draw stuff, like the One Ring. You're not really playing Bowmaster because one guy at your local meta plays Tainted Indulgence and you just can't stand him and you want to stick it to the man. And you're probably not playing Bowmaster because X1s exist. Like, I don't think you play Bowmaster because Ragavan exists as a Magic card. But, so when I hear people talk about like, oh, Bowmaster destroys my deck, but I don't play the One Ring and I don't play Bowmaster, then my immediate thought is like, what the heck are you talking about? Until you see people like not really having the ability to play around Bowmaster. Like, oh, I have to attack into this flash threat that trades up with my 3 toughness guy, or I have to attack in with Sviolin and put myself dead to a Bowmaster. And then you can kind of get it a little bit more, but either way, 7 cards, no lands, throw it back. 6 cards, Scion of Draco, turn 2 on the play, and a prayer. I probably could throw this back and find a better 5, but I figure it's got my lands. If I find like a Kavu off the top, it's great. Obviously, very, very low odds, but play to what you got. Turn 1 Tron land map. Historically, Tron is a reasonable matchup for Zoo. You're pretty proactive. You've got Stubborn Denial, Leyline Binding, stuff like that. Terra Sunder's out of the board. All we're trying to do really is put enough pressure on our opponent early to maybe top deck like a Tribal Flames or Double Flames Bolt, something like that, to finish the game off. Opponent's going to throw a fate counter on their O-Stone that they have to sacrifice to pop. So go get a Karn. We need to cycle Zagoth Triome into a Tribal Flames and draw a Tribal Flames. They've got a Sundering Titan, so they're just going to blow up all of our lands next turn. And end up not finding it, so I just scoop, because if I play out both my threats and my opponent casts their Sundering Titan, they blow up all my lands unless I leave like a Flooded Strand uncracked. They blow up all my lands. Kavu dies is like a state-based action. And you don't get to respond. This is, I hate the templating on Sundering Titan. You don't get to respond to them selecting the lands. Like, it enters, they pick the lands are gone. It enters, the ability goes on the stack. When the ability resolves, they pick the lands are gone. So you can't like, oh, you target these 4, cool. In response, I'm going to fetch up a Triumph and keep my Kavu alive. None of that. But that's what you get for playing a domain deck. Either way, game 2, sideboarding, threw these Bowmasters out the window because, like, I got so many better ways of pressuring our opponent than Bowmaster. Brought in Terra Sunders, brought in Flusterstorms. I always get people questioning when I bring in Flusterstorm against Tron. Usually it's because it's better than what I'm bringing out, but it also does a good job of interacting with like turn 2 Sylvan Scrying, early Ancient Stirrings, stuff like that. Occasionally Dismember, not Spatial Contortion, Warping Whale, things like that. So it's often not a dead card, and I do think it's better at pressuring than Bowmaster. So game 2 on the play, turn 1 Rag, turn 2 Double Threat. Can't ask for much more. Here we could go Kavu. We could go like Kavu. We could go Nikotl plus Binding. I end up going Nikotl Binding because if my opponent does have another map, they're going to have to like put off Tron till turn, or using Tron until turn 4, in which case I will have had another attack with Ragavan and Kavu, or another attack with Rag and Nikotl, and then Kavu and the second Nikotl down next turn that get in an attack. So I would do 5 next turn, put them to 13, play out the other Kavu and the Nikotl the turn after that, do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on the dot. So, yeah. Play out Nikotl this turn, finding the map. If opponent goes second Tron land map next turn, then we untap. We've got attack for 5. Put them down to 13. Play 5/5 Kavu, second Wild Nikotl, which gives us 13 power exactly. 3 Nikotl, 6 for the second Nikotl, 11 for the Kavu, 13 for the Ragavan. They would be able to crack map, assuming they're missing a tower. They'd be able to crack map and have 3 mana available, and I don't think there's really anything for 3 mana they can do that particularly scares me. Especially if I top deck a Stubborn Denial, and now I get to just put out lethal and have the stub. Opponent scooped when I hit the Karn off the Ragavan because they wouldn't be able to crack the map. I would not have cast this Karn anyway. I would have gone forward with the plan of Nacatl plus Kavu, hold up Stubborn Denial, and just deal with whatever they did on my turn. If they had like natural Tron plus Wormcoil Engine or something, they would have had it despite me shutting off the map. So on to game 3. Again, kind of proactive on the play. We've got Ragavan. Opponent moles to 5, so that's good sign for us. Fortunately, it's a 5 with Tron, so Tron. Get Tron online, play a 3/3 Ballista. Well, that's way scarier than anything they could have done. So when we top deck this land to get Kavu up to a 4/4, I am thrilled to immediately put that on the stack and not have to or immediately put it on the battlefield and not have to fetch and put an opportunity on the stack for my opponent to Walking Ballista my Kavu. So now I can just bolt at the Ballista. Their only play is to kill the Ragavan. So I get a free attack in with the Kavu, get to play Brawler, hold up Stub, throw away the Ragavan just to try to get the extra land type to grow the Kavu and the Brawler. Got it's an Ugin. Yeah. Ugin the Spirit Dragon gets countered and the opponent just scoops it up there. They're over it. So nice. Really clean 4-1 with Zoo. The loss being to the Temur Scapeshift deck that I punted my decisions away pretty hard. I do really appreciate the fact that I can recognize where my mistakes went wrong or where my mistakes were, what was wrong with them, where they kind of spiraled from there. So game 1, match 1 against Yawgmoth, keeping a 1-lander to rely on Ragavan. Mistake. Punished. The match against Temur Scapeshift, keeping a 1-lander with Ragavan, game 3, punished. Game 2, missing lethal with the 8 points of burn, the Tribal Flames of the Bolt, punished. Merfolk was my opponent having multiple Tricksters, game 1. I don't think it's wrong to play out your Kavu and make the opponent have Tricksters. They did. But game 3, even though it didn't end up mattering, not recognizing the interaction with the Trickster and the Kavu, that was on me. So could have gotten punished for that. Thankfully didn't. And beat Mono Black in 2, beat Tron in 3. But game 1, I don't really think there was a punishing moment against Tron. It's just kind of Tron doing Tron things. But yeah, Zoo's awesome. Definitely recommend giving it a shot. I kind of had a good time testing out some cards like Clothis. Just the idea of them, whether they have any legs or not, who knows. Rest in peace. Rest in peace I really like out of Zoo. I do think that Bowmaster gets a little bit weaker now that we don't have more Bowmasters to go up against, but if you're expecting a bunch of the One Ring, probably still worth it. And I do think it's really fun to have Bowmaster pinging down Yawgmoth with Rest in Peace out. So there's some ideas there. Other than that, if you're playing Zoo yourself and liking it, feel free to drop some comments on your list. What's working for you? What's not? What are you seeing? What did I screw up horribly? Always love to hear the feedback. As always, hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe. Enjoy some good food and company. I will catch y'all back live later. Links down below for Twitter, Discord, Twitch, all that, blah, blah, blah. Catch y'all later. Adios for now.